introduction. My name is Adil Ahmad. I've been your friend for a long time. Going back, how many years now?
It's like since 2009.
2009. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillah. So it's a joint venture, but you've been hosting this podcast on your own. So I decided recently, why not join and do it together? And inshallah, let's see where it goes. We're gonna try to do this off and on, maybe every week, inshallah. If not, then we'll move on. If it's successful, people like it, then we'll move on to we'll do more as we go along. And if you guys who are watching this have any questions, you can leave us comments, questionnaires in the bottom, and we can take those in the next podcast, inshallah. So Miraj, first of all, introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, inshallah.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is Miraj Sajuddin. I'm based in St. Louis, Missouri. I'm originally from Chicago, and I was born in Chicago, and my parents are from India and Pakistan. I lived in India for 13 years, like from 1990 up till 2003, and then I moved back to US, and I did my MBA here, and I've been working as a software quality analyst and SAP security consultant for ever since 2007, and what do you call? I've been working for different advocacy groups. I've been work for ACLU. I've been working with the Code Pink, and I also was on board of director for CARE's Missouri chapter. And I made the small documentaries for Islamic banking, and I also interviewed for Jewish political activists like Hadi Epstein and Jews against Zionism, the Naturai Karta, and and I do take pictures for a lot of events here, and I write blogs and about current events and international relations.
Alhamdulillah. And you've been doing that for quite a while. He's for many years, and I believe, and those people who know you also believe that you're very good at your job. And alhamdulillah, thank you for everything. So inshallah, we'll get started. And so this was, put together in a very short time. So we apologize to everyone, but as we go along, we'll get better, inshallah. But this is only for you guys, so you can better understand the current events, and there are quite a bit of them recently. And so these are definitely interesting times, and may Allah help us with everything that's going on. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So let's get started. So would you like to share with us your the topic of today, inshallah?
Oh yeah. So today is we'll be discussing Iran-Israel tensions and what's going on behind the scenes, and we'll be discussing what we anticipate in coming days, weeks, and months, or maybe years, and also the implications of that in the Middle Eastern region and beyond Middle East, and to the Muslims in the West especially, and what lies ahead was the future for the Ummah. So, and I like to just put it out there, like, we don't claim to have like any kind of divine knowledge or any like a ilm or like unseen. We look at events of our time in light of a hadith of fitan, like meaning Islamic eschatology, and also in the historical context and the psychic of the people in power, and what their motives are, what their goals are, and what they want to achieve, and where they want to take this world to. So yeah.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get started.
Mhm.
So recently, with the Ukraine situation, we see, lots going on, especially, the visit by the current Israeli Prime Minister. So Israel is playing, a really big role in the background, but we don't hear a lot of news about it. And in these kind of conflicts, they're always in the shadows. So we're gonna discuss a little bit going back in history and try to analyze, what's been going on, historical dates. They play uh, a big role in this. So inshallah, let's get started.
Okay, so I mean, before we go to Iran, Israel, let's look at how the Iraq War in 2003 started. Okay, so that will give us some idea as to what to expect and why we think the way we think and why we anticipate uh, the war or the coming events. So let me go back to 2003. So, for example, the Iraq War of 2003 didn't start on a random date or on something like that was like out of the blue. There was like a detailed planning involved in it, and there was like a lot of calculation was done. For example, Thomas Friedman, who is a New York Times columnist, he wrote a column and he made this a statement that the entire Iraq War was caused by 25 to 30 neoconservatives. And if you to put them somewhere in the island, the Iraq War would not have happened. And they made they all of them live within the 8 mile radius of White House. He said, and the most prominent of them among those neoconservatives are the Robert Kagan, Fred Kagan, Kim Kagan, Bill Kristol, Paul Wolfowitz, Dick Cheney, and many others, but these were the main prominent among them. So the day they choose uh, for to launch the first attack on Iraq was interesting. So what happened was uh, so the first attack that happened was on March 19th. So and the ultimatum that George Bush gave to Saddam Hussein, to leave the country or suffer the invasion, and that ultimatum was 48-hour long, and it expired at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on March 19th. So why March 19? So if you look at the Jewish lunar calendar, because the Jewish people, just like Muslim, they follow the lunar calendar, not the solar calendar, just like or like the Europe and United States and North America. So so the Purim is basically like a 2 days holiday, and this year is actually starting today, March 16, and it will end by tomorrow night. And so on in 2003, it started on March 18 and it end on March 19. So when it ends, that's when the Iraq War started. The first bombing began. So why the Purim holds significance for the the Jews? Well, it is because Purim, the main what you call the protagonist or the heroine of the Purim holiday is Esther. She played an important role in saving Jews from an Iranian king. And, so, so that's why they celebrate Purim. And so because if you're paying attention to what has been happening between Israel and Iran, there are like a lot of tit for tat. Like for example, cyber attack, and Mossad is now openly claiming, before they played in the shadows, but now they are openly admitting that we assassinated Fakhrizadeh, their nuclear scientist, and that we blow up the nuclear facility, especially in Natanz and in other areas. And now, just this week, the Haaretz, the Israeli liberal newspaper, reported that Mossad carried out an attack on the Iranian production drone production facility, and it caused a massive fire and a lot of blast, and it caused a significant damage. And also, the airstrikes the Israeli Air Force are carrying out in Syria, assassinating the Iranian Pasdaran, which is in English known as IRGC, Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps. So, like a few last
Two
week,
of them got assassinated just last week, I believe.
yeah, like so, and these were like not just ordinary IRGC officials; these were like high-ranking IRGC officials, and their funeral was widely publicized in Iranian press, and they will like remain, because like when IRGC or the Iranian establishment publicizes the death of like their officials, it means something. It's not like because the Iranian are like very careful in what they reveal and what they don't reveal. So if they reveal something, that means that it carries some significance, and they want to uh, uh, send signals, like like if we will revenge, or if we take
And and
significant
and and they
so
did take revenge just a couple of days ago for our
in
audiences.
Erbil, Iraq, yeah, they targeted. I mean, at that time they said like we targeted the Mossad facility, but a lot of people ridiculed that claim, saying like Iranians are just like a paranoid. But then just yesterday, I believe the Pentagon officials did reveal that Iranian did target the Israeli training facility, even though it's very close to American embassy there. But they did not target the American embassy, but they target the Israeli training facility there.
And
So,
have they said anything about how many people got killed in that, or we don't know anything about that?
I did not see any reports of like Israeli casualties or any Western casualties. I mean, the Iraqi casualties, or what they call the the uncivilized brown people of third world countries, their casualties are insignificant. It doesn't get reported in
Publish
the
it.
Western media. It doesn't get picked up. It doesn't get that importance. If in contrast, what the Western casualties, even if somebody get injured, it becomes a breaking news. So, to my knowledge, like what I been monitoring, I did not see a casualties figure. I see a lot of damage done, like a lot of debris, and a lot of like shattered windows, but like I am not aware of any casualties.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the dates. You were saying that they have their calendar just like us, and that's one thing I noticed also. Like they everything major that happens, they tend to follow their major holidays, just like you mentioned.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, the thing is, like, the Jewish people are like very learned people. They're not ignorant people, and they have like a lot of unique characteristics that other people don't have. So, for example, when Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was in Medina, a Jewish rabbi came to him and inquired about like because to Jewish people, like they have everything in their mind, like everything has an age, everything has like a set time, and after that things just collapse or disappear, or the what you call the decline happened. So he come to Muhammad and inquire. I don't remember the name on top of my head, but he said, how long will this religion of Islam will last? So Muhammad Sallallahu I think at that time I was given I think Aleph, and I've been given like Alif Lam Mim, and I've been given Kaf, Ha, Ya, Ain, Sad. So based on those letters, um, he said, "Oh, it's only like for this. So your religion Islam is only gonna last like for 70 years." And then Muhammad said, "No, I was also given Ain, Sin, Qaf, and I've also been given Sad." So all these single letter that appear in the Quran at the beginning of surahs, different surahs. So when Muhammad went down the list, he was like, "Oh, that's long," and then he made some like a statement that was like out of kind of like a dismissal or refusal. So, but then based on that, the the ulama, when I say the ulama, not just any kind of mufti who go to, these Darul Deoband or any other, the Medina University in Saudi Arabia or Al Azhar, and they study the fiqh, like fiqh of ghusl and fiqh of marriage and fiqh of divorce, and then the fiqh of mufti, and start giving opinion. People think like, oh, like learned people. No, when I say ulama, ulama who study like beyond just fiqh. Fiqh is basically the opinions of like the Imam Abu Hanifa, Imam Abu Shafi'i, and Imam Malik, Imam Hanbal, and other scholars, like great scholars. But like that's like a very one aspect of Islam. But then there's like other knowledge. There's knowledge of there like of jihad. There's a fiqh of jihad. There's a fiqh of what they call saraya. There's a fiqh of distribution of the ghanima, meaning the war booty, and there's a what you call ilm or knowledge of um, like the Islamic eschatology, and there are like different things. So the ulama who, based on this answer of Musa to the Jewish rabbi, they try to draw like how long the age of a Muslim will be. So they say like it will be 1500 years. And I don't want to go into all the detail, but if anyone interested, I can post the link to that in this video. So if anyone wants to learn more about that, so it's 1500 years. So because so since we are in like 1400, I believe is the let me see, it's 1451 Hijri or something. Oh, sorry, 43 Hijri we are in right now. Let me look at the oh. So since we are in that, so a lot of the ulama are anticipating that we're gonna have major events, to happen, because the mission of Muhammad Sallallahu is not just for the Arabs. It was not just for like the Arabian Peninsula. It's for the entire world. And the mission, when I say the mission of Muhammad Sallallahu is not a mission like like people become Muslim. The mission is Islam become dominant power. Islam become a supreme, like the world order. Because like right now we have the capitalistic, interest-based world order where you have the American oligarch, or the Russian oligarch. American don't use the word oligarch; they call
Yeah.
it billionaire, but it's the same thing. Just because you use different terminology doesn't change the fact that they both usurp the wealth of the poor and desperate masses. Same thing. So
So
that
basically,
mission,
we are in the end time by these calculations.
yes. So because we're in 1443 Hijri, so that leaves like about 57 years, and in this 57 years, all these events have to happen. The emergence of Imam Mahdi, the Khilafah, the Yajuj Majuj, the Dajjal, and the descension of Isa alayhi salam into this world. So all that had to happen, and then
And they're happening really fast,
really
like I
fast,
said,
yes.
really
Mhm,
fast.
mhm. So, but then the thing is, like Imam Mahdi won't emerge before certain things happen. Like for example, the Hadith talk about the civil war in Saudi Arabia, and the destruction of the people of Fars. So the hadith says, like, before the Arabs were destroyed, the people of Fars, meaning the Iranian, will be destroyed. So how this will happen? So the way it will happen is, so let's say if Israel attack Iran, Iran as a retaliation is not just only gonna unleash its proxies like the Houthis in Yemen, the Shia militias in Iraq, and Shia militia like Hezbollah in Syria and Lebanon. Um, they're gonna unleash attacks on these Saudi Arabia, UAE, because the Iranians consider them as like client states, the people, the Arabs the Sunni Arabs who are advancing the interest of what they call the Zionist clientele states. They so they're gonna start attacking, and it's already happening. We saw the Houthis launch missiles on Abu Dhabi and Dubai. So if Israel to attack it, it's gonna like unleash whole wave of attacks, not just like one.
And we also see the Syrian militias recently. They're going to Ukraine, thousands of them.
Yes.
So so this is already happening.
Yeah. So what they call coming events cast their shadows. So that's what we see. And also like a few things that I forgot to mention is just 2 days ago, like on Monday, the Israeli military intelligence chief Ahran Halewa, if I pronounce his name right, and the deputy army chief Harzai Halevi, and General Tal Kalman of the Israeli Defense Force, who is in charge of the operation on the Iranian front, were all in Washington, D.C. Discussing like sensitive intelligence matters and discussing the military coordination with the American counterpart in like as to what to expect in the next coming day. So I would anticipate like something of catastrophic nature is about to happen, and maybe in a day or two, if not at least we'll see something in a coming year. Because the thing is, America is a declining empire right now. So when that happened,
they need a distraction.
Yeah, so a lot of things, come into play at the same time. So,
and you can see, well, the Russians are like they're taking lots of losses. So yes, of course, they're being backed into a corner, and they might do something really crazy.
Yeah, that's anticipated because like Russia got exposed like really big time. Like they had this reputation, like they can cause like severe what they call a cyber attack that can cripple like countries, the power grid and the power structure, and much beyond that, that can brought down the countries to their knees by just unleashing cyber attacks. But like when we saw in the Ukrainian war, like none of that happened. Like not just that, Russia failed to form an air supremacy over Ukrainian airspace. I mean, Ukraine is like just the size of a Texas, like so that small area, and they're unable to, have the air supremacy, and not just that, they are unable to capture a big chunk of Ukraine and like the eastern part of Ukraine, which is considered like more like Russian speaking and pro-Russia, and not just that, like it just like borders the Russia, so like right next door. So when you have all that advantage and you are unable to capture that part, because like for example, it took 40 days for the United States to capture whole of Iraq, and that was like far away from the homeland. Like you fly like across the Atlantic Ocean, and you have all these like bases, and then
and Saddam Hussein, he didn't have any help. He was basically
yeah,
alone,
he didn't
and
have any help. Yeah, that's true. So this exposed him really big time, and also like the fact that they're under sanctions. So because like Russia is like is a conglomerate of like multicultural, multi-ethnic people who don't really share like the same values or same what do you call uh,
sentiments.
culture, or yeah, they don't have that. So when they see like Russia is exposed like this, they're gonna start like demanding like more rights and more autonomy and more probably like asking for like breakaway. Then we see that, like for example, just yesterday I was watching one Uzbek blogger, who made videos. He was saying like the Russia after Ukraine is going to attack Central Asian countries, so we need to prepare ourselves. So what that tells us is the Central Asian countries, especially like Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, all these countries will try to steer away from the Russian sphere of influence. And I mean, the America, especially the CIA, um, ARM, NED, National Endowment for Democracy, they do these what do you call like popular uprising, and they overthrow the non-Western friendly regimes in third world countries, and they overthrow them. So they're gonna start staging something like that, and that's what we saw in Kazakhstan. Like
and you can see that already. The most of the captured soldiers, you see,
yeah,
like they're like young recruits. They don't even look Russian most of the time,
yeah,
and
because like
they have no will to fight at all.
yeah, because like the thing is like there was a leak of a name and list of soldiers, and it was like a 6,686 pages long, and the big chunk of the soldiers enlisted in the Russian army were of like a Tajik descent, because just like in the United States, you have like the Mexicans and people from like a Latino descent who come to the United States and they join the American army in the hope that they will get a citizenship. So same thing, people from Central Asian countries like Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Turkmenistan, they go to Russia, and a lot of them do join the Russian army in the hope that they will get a Russian citizenship. And so when people join army for that reason, they don't have a motivation to fight.
Yeah. So do you think they're being used in a way because Vladimir Putin knows, like that America is going to unleash everything they got, and he's holding back with old weaponry and these, like untrained soldiers, and then he's going to unleash, the main force, or do you think, like he will just do something really crazy and just fire the nukes?
I do think like the Putin and the Russian establishment, they did wanted to kind of get rid of like what they call the least desirables, because most of the equipment that we saw that Russians lost in Ukraine were like old tanks, old like military vehicles. I mean, they did lost like a lot of like state of the art technology, like their air defense systems and like a Tor tanks and all that. And but now what we see is like after those like least desirable soldiers, especially from like Inner Mongolia and Tajikistan, all these parts, and they what they call the conscript soldiers, I think. So so they did get rid of that, like, but now what we are seeing is the motivated, like for example, the Chechen for the of the pro Kadyrov battalion, and the mercenaries from the Wagner group, which is the private military organization of Russia, just like Blackwater.
And then
And
we're
they,
seeing the Syrians coming over also, and they're highly motivated and they got
yeah,
lots of experience.
in urban warfare, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Armenians, Syrians, and also like from African countries, because Russia is operating like in Central African Republic, Russia is operating in Mozambique, Russia is operating in Libya, and a lot of other African countries. So I've seen reports like where the recruitment is starting, and also like the recruitment is going on under in Iraq, especially the people of the Sunni Iraqis, who are accused of being like a pro-ISIS or ISIS sympathetic, and the Shias who are anti-Iranian, but they're not part of like a militia, and then you have like Kurds who are poor and they want to get out of poverty. So those kind of people are joining these recruitment campaign that's being done by the Russians in Iraq.
and they're not holding back anymore. Before, I think they were holding back, and
Yes.
but once they noticed, like they're not getting any more territory or very less of it in a very limited time. So you see lots of bombardments, so I think you're right. Like he won't stop. I think he will get what he wants, and then he'll move along to other places. So how does this relate to what we were talking about earlier on, the dates, the Jewish calendar? So if you can reflect on that, please.
So so today is the first day of the Purim, and the Purim holiday will end tomorrow. So because the Purim is like a very what do you call, a good omen, for the Jews, and they think like anything good that happened, it's happened like after Purim. So I think like, because to Israel, Iran is like a threat, right? And nuclear Iran is intolerable and not acceptable, and they went uh, out of their way to stop Iran from acquiring nuclear weapon. So it looks like, after tomorrow, when the Purim is over, there's gonna be something of catastrophic nature will happen to Iran. That's my opinion, but I don't claim to know the divine decree, and Allah knows best.
So what do you think they might do, with these attacks if they do happen? And I know sometimes the dates are off also, because they might start it on those holidays, but they know that other people know also that that they go by the lunar calendar, and they like to do things on certain dates. What kind of things do you expect? Are they going to do a full-fledged war? You think it's going to be a false flag at first? We already saw, the Iranian taking out the Mossad base. You think is going to spread like wildfire? If you can touch upon that.
Well, I mean, we can speculate based on what we know, right? So Israel have F-35 fighter jets, which United States provided them. But the thing is, like, it doesn't have enough range to take off from Israel and go bomb nuclear facilities in deep Iran, because the Iranian nuclear facilities are not on the border region, right? It's in central Iran, is buried deep in the mountainous region. For that, you cannot just use like what they call PGMs, precision guided missiles. You need like deep, what they call a bunker buster, like a heavy bunker buster bomb that can go beneath the mountains and blast that. And so I don't think Israel will carry out like an aerial attack, but you never know, because you have these UAE, you have Bahrain, which have established diplomatic ties, with Israel, and they all consider Iran as a threat. Okay, and then also you have like Azerbaijan, which is friendly relations with Israel. So Israel do have an option to take off, the fighter jets from these areas and go bomb Iran. And actually, interesting thing is like there's a TV series on Apple TV called Tehran, and that whole fictitious series is actually based on this the aerial attack on Iran, and this Mossad agent who is inside Tehran. Her job is to disable Iranian electric grid. So when the Israeli fighter jets enter Iranian airspace, the Israeli radar don't detect it, and they can go easily bomb and then come back, right? That's yeah.
So right now we got Russia, Ukraine, and the West. So let's touch upon also one subject that not a lot of people have been talking about. They have been, but only in Pakistan and India. So the recently the news of a missile attack, on Pakistani soil by the Indians.
Mhm.
What do you think about that?
Well, Indian claims like that this was an accidental fire, but that claim is dubious. First because there was a long silence for 2 days. Because if there's accidental fire, the established protocol are you inform your adversary immediately. So they don't like uh, prepare like what you call retaliatory measures, right? But India doesn't do any of that. So India only issued a statement after 48 hours after Pakistan, protested that, and then they demanded what do you call explanation. So I think what it was, it's and it's a speculation. Obviously, I don't know the internal, but my speculation is that they were testing the Pakistani air defense system to see.
Especially the way the missile took a 90-degree turn
Yes.
from what.
So they were testing, like, and because like it's a ballistic missile, and it was fire. I mean, it was flying like at a Mach speed, which is like beyond the speed of the sound. So the air defense system, like I think, cannot detect that. So they wanted to see the response of the Pakistani defense forces, and I think they're probably pleased with what
The results were.
results. Yeah.
Yeah. And lastly, the situation, like with the hijab ban in India, that's what's going on with that, and we see, like we have been seeing for a couple of years now that Muslims have been, like getting killed by lynch mobs, and so how would you relate, all this what's going on to current events and what's going on uh, with Ukraine, and summarize everything in one, like where it's going to lead to, in your view, if you have some time.
Well, the hijab issue in India is like what like the professor Gregory Stanton called the 10 stages of the genocide, right? So one of the step is that like you dehumanize the targeted community, right? So when you dehumanize, it becomes easy for a person to kill them without feeling like a guilty. You like, for example, this American soldier who carried out a massacre in Iraq. When he was asked, he said like, I didn't think of Iraqis as human. So same thing, you think of them as like less than human, you think of them as like cockroaches. So this hijab issue is part of that dehumanization. So and we saw like the videos, like where the teachers were asking, were forcing these Muslim girls to take off hijab, and they were laughing, they were giggling, and they were thinking like, like look at these, garbage or trash, whatever. So that's part of that. And also like the thing is like this whole the Islamophobia is global. It's not just specific to India. It's not specific to France. It's not specific to like a Central Asia or like United States. It's global, and there's a reason.
And this war in Ukraine has kind of opened up that subject again in a good way. Like we can see, how the refugees are being treated in Poland versus how Muslim refugees were being treated from Syria.
Yes, like they were not well. The Syrian refugees were not welcome. They were dehumanized. They didn't even use the word refugee. They were calling them migrants, because the difference is migrants. People migrate for economic reasons, right? But the refugees, they migrate not for economic reason, but because they are fleeing war, persecution. So they were not using that word. They were using migrant. So and they were denied. They were treated like horribly, and not just that. Like we see like open like double standards in the Western media, in intelligence agencies and the government, the way they deal. Like for example, the Western media is openly glorifying the suicide bomber, the guy who blew himself up, on the bridge in Ukraine, and he was glorified. But if the Muslim does the same act, they are called suicide bombers, and their families' home being raided, and they're harassed, and the media demonize them, and they character assassinate, and they go on and on and on.
And
And
same thing
all,
with the mujahideens, like when they go to defend other Muslims, they get demonized.
yeah.
And now you see, like lots of foreign fighters in Ukraine.
Oh yeah,
And
the media is actually providing like a step-by-step guide. They're openly sharing the link of the websites, where they can go and see the manual and find like helpful resources, right?
yes, yeah, it is definitely, it's very strange times, but not for us. We're sorry to
Yeah,
say we're used to this kind of stuff, and we have been warned about these events, and they're just playing into light uh, uh, even more clearly than before. So, inshallah,
I think it's
like.
time to wrap up, and I think
So if you have
we
a
still have.
closing statement, like I will do, just about a couple of more minutes and wrap it up, inshallah.
Yeah.
And then for the viewers, if you have any comments, questions, please ask us. You can email us. We'll provide you all the links. You can leave comments, and we will answer your comments. We will provide answers. We will, you know, any kind of suggestions. Like we will improve, inshallah. And so go ahead
Yeah.
with your.
So the concluding remarks, like, so here's the thing, like, so we look at the events of our time in light of ahadith of fitan, and I know a lot of Muslims have like allergy to this kind of thing. They kind of like have like this dismissive attitude towards the hadith of fitan. They don't like these things. But the thing is, we have to look at like how we have to follow the sunnah of Anbiya alayhim salam, and the way they used to look at it, like they used to think that Qiyamah would come like right next moment. Like for example, Ibn Sayyad, when people reported about him to Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam suspected that Ibn Sayyad to be a Dajjal, right? I mean, even though Dajjal didn't come like, like it's almost over 1400 years, but like Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam thought like, he's a Dajjal, right? And then whenever Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam would discuss Dajjal, the Sahaba used to think the Dajjal would just come like from behind them, like right there and then, and also
And there are lots of small dajjals, like mini dajjals, as we call it.
30 Dajjal are prophesied, like like that there will be 30 Dajjal before the Masih Dajjal would appear, and they are like those 30 are like the false prophet, like for example Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani, Baha'u'llah, and many others that claim to be a prophet. I mean, when we say 30, there are like more than 30 people they claim to be prophet, but the one who are influential in having people follow them are the ones, because if you're not charismatic, if you're not intelligent, then people are not gonna follow you, right? It doesn't matter if you claim to be a prophet or whatever. But the one who are successful uh, were the charismatic, and they were able to mislead the masses. For example, Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadiani, he was very learned. He used to debate like the Christian missionary, but then he turned around and he claimed to be a prophet. So same thing with Baha'u'llah, he was like very intellectual, and he was able to mislead the masses. So anyway, so we look at events of our time in light of our hadith of fitan, and we do think like we are living in end times, and we think all the events, like no matter where and when it happened, it's all leading toward al malhama, and Islam is at the center state. So and then Huzaifa bin Yaman said like the hadith not attributed to him, it says like the people who will be able to save themselves from fitna are the ones who are aware of the fitna. So that's why we need to discuss the hadith of fitna, because it's not we don't discuss the hadith of fitna just to have this like a speculative mindset or to create like a paranoia or being hysterical. We discuss it so we can save ourselves from the misguidance or from being misled. So that's the whole point. So, inshallah. So we'll
Inshallah.
stop here. So we'll try to do a next podcast next Wednesday, inshallah, if we get time. And I do have a few topics in my mind that I
Inshallah.
want to
Inshallah.
discuss. So we'll discuss that.
And
Okay.
plus, like I will take comments of everyone else, and we'll include that. We'll answer them. And please like our podcast. We will try to publish it on YouTube. I believe I will post the link to that. Facebook, of course, and any other place where we can find, we'll publish it. Please like, subscribe, also leave comments. Thank you so much. And Miraj, thank you so much. And I'll talk to you later on.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.